You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous.
Her loyalty is only to the family she serves. A midwife who will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change. We are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating this space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were
born wild. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and today I have with me Mo, who's going to share her 2 birth stories. And I'll just hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Perfect. Thanks, Sophia. I'm Morissa. I go by Mo. I met Sophia originally through my first home birth. and Claudette assisted me 3 years ago and got pregnant the second time around, and I reached out to Born Wild just kind of on a whim, and it happened to be Sophia and Leah, and I just knew it was a perfect match. So I'm excited to share my birth story.
Yeah, I know. I always laugh when I think about the interview because I hadn't met you ahead of time. I just met you in labor. You were naked in hands and knees. Hadn't never met you before. Hadn't seen you since. And you were like, wait a minute, I think you were at my birth. And I was like, your story sounded really familiar.
Small world. Small world.
It is. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dive right in. And I want to know where your story starts. Like, either when you knew you wanted to be a mom or when you found out you were pregnant, or just like, where does your like mommy journey begin?
Yeah, that's a good question. One I've never really thought too much about. I mean, I knew I wanted to be a mom, but to be honest, I was okay if I wasn't. It wasn't something I was like completely dead set on, truthfully. Just, having a broken childhood and, a broken marriage as a child, my parents, wasn't anything I was like dead set on, like I said. So really it wasn't until I met, I think, my husband, and we had planned our lives together, and he always wanted children. I knew that that's kind of where my journey started. I was excited to go down that road with him. And it was something he wanted originally way sooner than me. He if it was up to him, we would have had babies, shortly after we started dating. But I wanted to go the traditional route of being married first and having some time as a married couple before trying for kids. And we just got really, really lucky on the first try with our first, Madeline 3 years ago. We planned it out, and it all just kind of came together perfectly. So that's kind of where it all began for us.
Great. And so what led you to home birth? Like at that pregnancy, were you already planning a home birth? Like, what did your pregnancy look like? And what were your like views on birth at that point?
So did I lose you? Thanks. So, to be honest with you, my desire for a home birth started long before I even knew my husband. I was in a child development class at a community college after high school, and I took two of them with this amazing professor, and there was a big section on home birth and water birth, and there was just in that moment in time something inside me that clicked that said, if I ever have babies, this is how I want my birth story to be, a home birth. I didn't want a traditional hospital birth. So that's where that desire for me started.
Oh, great. And so did you just hire a midwife right off the bat, or at what point did you begin prenatal care with a midwife?
I did not right off the bat, to be honest, because I didn't have the buy-in of my husband, Jeff. He looked at me like I had 3 heads when I told him that I wanted a home birth.
Yeah.
So it took some coaxing on that end. I started my prenatal care with my OB like regular course. And it was almost like fate that one of his close coworkers, his wife had actually just recently had a home birth herself. So he kind of got Jeff to sort of change his mind in that sense. So it wasn't really until, I don't know, maybe after my first trimester, I got him to kind of get on board. And that was when I had reached out to Claudette, because I knew she was who I wanted here in town. So that's how that worked out.
Great. And so then how was your pregnancy? Anything big that popped up for you, or anything you want to share about how the pregnancy unfolded?
You know, I'll be honest, I was so blessed and fortunate with my first pregnancy and my second, but my first one was a breeze. I didn't have any morning sickness. I was able to work out, from beginning to end. I didn't have any sort of, crazy hormonal changes that made me up and down. I got really lucky. It was pretty much a breeze.
That's great. Yeah. Well, then take us up to the point of labor with your first.
Yeah, I had been out in Napa. Jeff and we had actually taken my mom out for a quick procedure in Napa, and we just decided we would make a day of it and have some lunch and just kind of hang out. And we got back home that afternoon, tucked my mom in to recover for the weekend, and we went and lay down on the couch in the living room just to relax. And I felt a little pop inside that felt kind of odd. And I stood up and I just started leaking. And I looked at Jeff and I said, I think my water just broke. But it was more of a question than it was a statement, because I was still 3 weeks from my due date. So I called Claudette and I said, I think my water just broke. And she's like, oh, interesting. Okay, it's early. Well, this is your first. You should, it was like 4:30 in the afternoon. She's like, you should have some dinner, go to bed and call me in the morning. I'm like, oh, okay. I just was like, sounds good. I didn't really know. I didn't know what to expect from there. I had texted my doula and I was like, this is what happened. She's like, well, let me know when you need me to come support you. I'm like, okay, sounds good. I don't really know, what this is going to feel like or look like. And things progressed really, really, really fast. I was in the thick of just intense contractions within like 2 hours. So
within 2 hours from your water's opening, contractions started.
I mean, I'm within an hour, but within 2 hours, they were like very intense.
Yeah.
So
at that point, did you gather your team?
My team, as in
your midwife and doula.
Oh yeah. I did. I texted my doula. I'm like, I think I need you now. So she came, and Claudette came shortly thereafter. We were we were really unprepared. I didn't even have all of my supplies. I didn't have the tub at my house. Claudette was kind of scrambling. We were all just kind of like in a frenzy.
Yeah.
But it was happening so fast and so unexpectedly. But I'm trying to recall now. I think Claudette and Sky were there within a couple of hours, and I can't remember. I think you made it later on in the evening, right before the birth, but
yeah. I was there for
later in the night.
Yeah, you were pushing when I got there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, there she came out around 12:30 in the morning. So it all just went very, very fast.
Yeah, it was like 6 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty fast because a first time mom, we're always like, you're gonna go late and it's gonna be a couple days. Like, we just try to prepare people for that. But yeah, you are the anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it happens. So yeah, take us to, the actual labor, birth, emergence, whatever you want to share about it.
Yeah. So, like I said, it all happened really fast. I did kind of at one point question why I chose to have a home birth because it hurt so bad. I'm like, why did I want to do this again? Remind me. So I'm grateful for, the support of everyone there, reminding me, encouraging me. I labored a lot on a toilet for some reason, and you called it something this last go around. You called it the
dilation station.
Dilation station, yes. So it's funny to have heard that this second time, because the first time that was totally the case for me. I mean, I think I labored the most on the toilet. Just for whatever reason, it was the most comfortable position for me to be in. Tried to labor in bed. That just wasn't doing it for me. And then I got an urge to push. And that was kind of when I decided to get into the tub, because we weren't really sure if I was fully dilated or not. So I was able to get into the tub and relax a bit. And I was fully dilated at that time. So I think I ended up pushing for maybe around like an hour, if I recall correctly. I had tried in the tub, I had tried on that sort of like seat thing that it almost looks like a toilet, but there's nothing under it, I guess. Nothing really.
Like a birth stool?
Yes, the birth stool, thank you. Nothing really felt natural or comfortable, other than just getting on my hands and knees. And that's what felt the most natural at the time. So I started to do the majority of the pushing there on my hands and knees. It did get a little questionable at one point, as while it was checking the baby's heart rate, it was dipping every time I was pushing. So I don't think my pushes were super productive. And I think Claudia actually had to kind of push her back in a little bit at one point, just to kind of resituate. And she said at that point I needed to make a decision. Either I have to push her out, or we would have to make the decision to transfer. So I'm like, well, I didn't come all this way to only come this far. So I was able to catch my breath, push again, and we looked down and her butt was coming out first. So that was shocking to everyone, of course. Nobody expected that. I think I had her out in about 2 or 3 pushes.
Yeah, at that point you were like, let's have a baby.
Yeah, I mean, there's no going back now.
Yeah. And mainly too with like heart tones and everything being a little bit funky.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember, because I don't really like how she did when she was born, like did she need any help because of the heart tones being low, or did she just cry right away? Or
no, she cried right away. There were no issues. She was really tiny. She was only 5 pounds 4 ounces, but everything was fine. She latched right away. I mean, she was seemingly normal and healthy. There were no issues on that end.
Great. And what about your placenta? Did that come out without any issues?
It did, yes. It did. I'm trying to remember.
Was it
how much longer after?
I remembered. Because usually
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was, and I think it was tiny, and I remember not even realizing that I had to birth it out. So that was shocking the first time. I know that sounds maybe ignorant on my end, but I was like, I have to what?
Yeah, a lot of moms are just like, they just feel done after all the work they just did, and then they realize they're not done.
Right.
Yeah, even if you knew ahead of time, you just kind of like, oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Yeah. What about like breastfeeding or your postpartum experience? Like anything to mention there? Was it all pretty smooth?
My postpartum experience was great. I feel very fortunate on that end as well. My breastfeeding experience with my first was not. It was far from great. It was actually, truthfully, harder than the pregnancy and labor and delivery. the first 3 months were really, really brutal. It did not come naturally for us. It was extremely painful. It was just hard. It was really hard for 3 months. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. She had lip and tongue ties, which we had revised, but we had to use a nipple shield for 3 months. I don't really know how else to say it other than it was just hard. It was so hard. But I was really determined. I was really, really determined. Looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I didn't quit or why I didn't quit, because it was draining mentally and physically, but I was just like, I have to do this. So, fortunately and grateful that I was able to stick it through. We ended up making it to 2 years.
Wow, that's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a lot, especially when it's your first time.
Yeah, it is. And there's really just not there's just so much. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about breastfeeding, and I don't think there's enough support as there can be or should be or could be, I guess, for new moms.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I think we're meant to, I'm sure I've said it on this podcast before, we're meant to be in our villages where you grew up watching everybody birth and breastfeed. So by the time it was your turn, it wasn't this unfamiliar thing, and you had all the support of all the women in your village, it could be a really isolating experience.
Totally.
Well, take us to, finding out you're pregnant again. Was it a surprise? Were you trying to get pregnant? How did that all go?
Yeah, we had agreed that we thought a 3-year age gap would be the most ideal. So last summer we had a few things planned that we wanted to, that I wanted to not be pregnant for. So we had a couple trips last July. That was like my final hurrah. We decided we'd try right after that again for number 2, and we got really lucky again and got it on the first try. Mm-hmm. So it was shocking. It was amazing news, but it was also shocking because we thought, hey, it won't happen the first try. There's no way, and sure enough. So
we say that for some
super blessed.
You don't have to open the door; you just have to crack a window.
Yeah, totally. So true. So I was following my cycle and all that, and I just one day the next month I'm like, let me just see. Period should be coming today. It's probably not going to be a positive test, but I'm just going to see anyway. And sure enough, it was a positive test. I'm like, wow. I was ready, but like not that ready. I just was thinking like it'll take a couple months time maybe, but nope.
That's funny. And how was this pregnancy? Was it pretty straightforward like the last?
Yeah, it was. The only major difference for me, I mean, I was still blessed in that I was able to work out. I didn't have any morning sickness. I was just way more tired this go around, and I don't know if that was the pregnancy or being pregnant with a toddler.
Yeah.
With your first, it was like you're able to take a nap and do whatever you want and lounge around and do nothing if you wanted. You could just rot in bed all day. But when you have a toddler, you can't do that. So this pregnancy just felt a little bit more exhausting than the first.
Yeah. And we kind of briefly mentioned, but we did an interview and then, discovered that, wait, I was actually at your first birth. This is hilarious. And decided to work together and, yeah. And then, we were, prepared for you to give birth early again, 37 weeks. Just in case. I think we even got you like the birth tub and all that a little bit earlier. You even maybe took off work earlier.
Yep. That's all true. I just had this like fear. I don't know really, I would say it was a fear, but I had this looming thought that she was going to come early. So yeah, I was prepared early. I took off about 2 weeks earlier so I took about 6 weeks off before my due date, just to play it safe. I got the tub. I mean, I had all my supplies months in advance because I was like, this is not going to happen again. I'm not going to be going into labor left like help scrambling. So yeah, I was ready. I was thinking she'll be early too, which was not the case.
And then she wasn't.
And then she wasn't. She decided she would come on time.
Yeah, that happens sometimes too, where even the first two are early and then the third isn't, so it really sets the mom up to be like, oh, this just must be how I do it. And then blindside.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Babies are calling the shots, not us.
They run the show.
Yeah, well, take us to either those last few weeks of like, how were you emotionally with like, thinking you were going to go early and then not? How were those last few weeks for you? And then lead us into your birth story.
Yeah. To be honest, the last few weeks I was like, I think because I had mentally prepared myself for her to be early is kind of just like what I wanted as well. And I just kept telling Jeff, I'm like, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. Like, I just want this to be over with. I've just been anticipating it. Like, I want to meet her. I'm ready, and every day it was I never had the feeling with Madeline with my first of like, it could be any day now, that feeling where you're like, okay, it could be any day now. I didn't ever have that feeling with Madeline because it came so early, so unexpectedly. So it was such a crazy emotional time, leading all the way up till she came, because every day I was like, it could be today, it could be today, it could be, any day now. So that was just a feeling that I never got to experience. So it was draining in a way. I mean, I was grateful that she didn't come early and she was fully cooked, but it was still just a very weird, like, in between feeling that I didn't experience with Madeline. So
yeah, it's like the ultimate feeling in limbo of like any moment now everything could change and you just don't know when.
Yeah, and every day I was just inching one day closer to her due date, and I'm like, every day I'm like, I can't believe I'm so pregnant. Which, I mean, I was not even, it wasn't even to my due date, but it still was just a strange feeling and period of time to be in. But I did definitely, take advantage of the time, of Madeline being my baby, my how do I say it? Like, she was my only baby for only a few more weeks. So I took advantage of that time with her, and definitely just had a lot of me time those last few weeks. Got my pedicures and all that. So it was nice. And then we made a joke.
Can we back up a little bit? Because I am reminded that you were pretty sick in your pregnancy in terms of like, didn't your daughter give you RSV?
Oh yeah, I totally just skipped over that. I totally lied. I'm like, no, my pregnancy was great. My the pregnancy.
Sorry to remind you of it.
I know. I'm like trying to black that part of my life out. Okay. Yes. So like the pregnancy itself was great, but me as like a human being, I was sick for like, honestly, I think it started in November, maybe end of October, November. I was so sick from November to basically until she was due. And then I ended up having a cough for like 3 weeks after I had her. I don't know if I told you that, but yeah, I was very sick. I had my RSV from Madeline that turned into pneumonia. And I also had a stomach bug at one point in there around the holidays. So I was legitimately sick for like 4 months. Not sick pregnancy sick, but sick just with all the germs that my petri dish brought home to me.
Yeah, it's so rough.
So rough. I totally forgot all of that too.
I'm so sorry to bring it up.
It's okay. Yeah, so maybe that's why I was so tired, right?
You're like, I don't know why I was so tired.
I don't know why I was so exhausted. Yeah, because I was on my deathbed.
Yeah. Yeah. It was rough. It sounded rough.
Yeah. So that was
Well, yeah. Thank you for backtracking a little bit and humoring me.
yeah.
And then, yeah, you can take us forward to, your birth, her birth.
Yeah, we so as I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned, but with this birth, I did still continue my prenatal care with my OB at Kaiser, just because, you know, it was their insurance wise and just something I kind of wanted for my own peace of mind anyway, especially since I was going sort of the a la carte option with you girls. I, you know, wasn't seeing you physically regularly. So I stuck with my OB at Kaiser, and the week of her due date, I had gone in for my 40-week checkup, and they measured me, or she measured me, and she was like, "Oh, you're measuring still at 37 weeks," you know, where they take the looks like a seamstress like measuring tape just over my belly, and she's like, "You're still measuring at 37 weeks, which is what you were measuring at, you know, when you were here last." And I don't know, she kind of sent me into a little bit of a, long story short, sent me into a little bit of a, you know, stress, because she encouraged that I maybe get an ultrasound just to check the size of the baby, just to make sure, you know, everything was as it should have been. And I actually ended up hopping on a call with Leah because I was so stressed and I didn't know what to do, and I wasn't sure what the right decision was. And Leah was really great at calming my nerves and talking me off the ledge. And my OB at Kaiser also was, I don't want to say trying to scare me into an induction, but you know, she's like, "You're approaching your due date," and the typical, you know, experience, I guess you could think of with Kaiser. But that it was that Monday or Tuesday, I think, before her due date. So I had a pretty stressed out week, and I had come home, and I'm like, you know, I asked Jeff, I'm like, "Can't you just take off work early and spend a little bit of time with me these next couple of days as we're getting closer to the due date?" And he's like, "Oh, okay. You know, maybe we could take a day off and go do something together." I'm like, "Sounds great." So that was Thursday, my due date. He took off work, and we made a joke like, "Let's go to Napa again," because the last time we went to Napa was the day that labor started with Madeline. So I'm like, "Let's go have lunch in Napa. Maybe I'll go into labor." It was a joke, but I mean, it was still her due date. But we went out to Napa, him and I, had some lunch, did some shopping around. That was on my actual due date. And I'm like walking around, everyone's looking at me like, "Oh, you're so cute. When are you due?" I'm like, "Today." They're like, "What?" I don't live far from here, but I wasn't really feeling anything. I mean, she was moving a lot, but wasn't feeling any cramping or anything like that. And then on the drive home from Napa, I'm like, "Oh, things feel a little bit different, sort of cramping a little bit ish. She's just moving a lot. It's probably nothing." And then picked up Madeline from daycare. We got home. That was about 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then I thought I felt a contraction. And I was like, "No, that probably wasn't a contraction." And then 20 minutes later, I felt another one. I was like, "Okay, that was a contraction."
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny both times. We went to Napa for the day and labor started, but this labor started obviously much different than with Madeline.
Yeah, it was a long early labor.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, just take us through that whole experience of, you know, what early labor was like for you and what was going on in your head, because you were probably like us thinking, okay, when it happens, this baby could just fall out.
Yes. And that's kind of how I felt like it was gonna go. So when I called you and Leah, and you guys are like, "Okay, grab some dinner and go to bed again," which is what Claudette did me the first time. I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure."
Because they were
So
pretty mild at first, and like every half hour or something like that, you know.
yeah, they were absolutely, manageable, mild, really far apart. So it wasn't, it was just in my head. I was like, okay. So I tried to keep Madeline here. I had this beautiful picture in my head of us all being one kumbaya, happy family. But Madeline was just bouncing off the wall. She was like doing laps around the birth tub, jumping off the couch. I'm like, this is not really what I envision this labor looking like. So I called my mom and sent her home with my mom. Jeff and I ate dinner. I, turned the lights, turn my little twinkle lights on. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna relax and try to get some sleep. So I did actually get a decent amount of sleep overnight. Contractions kind of stayed the same all night long, just 20, 30 minutes in between, pretty mild, nothing crazy. So definitely was a different experience, and it felt like just never ending. I'm like, is this what women go through? This is so long. Like, I just want to get this over with.
Yeah, you kind of like reversed your births, where it was like you had your second baby first, and yeah.
So yeah, the morning time rolled around after a night of some sleep, a little bit of sleep, and I remember about 7:30, it started to pick up a little bit. My contractions still manageable, still nothing crazy. Like, I could still talk through them and move through them. So it's just really the waiting game, which was another weird experience that I didn't anticipate because I didn't have it with Madeline.
Yeah, I remember waking up that morning and being like, she didn't call. Like, she would have called.
Yeah. So definitely, it was just such a strange thing. Like, in the morning looking at Jeff, it was just him and I at the house, and I'm like, what do you want to do? You want to like watch a movie or something? Like, just waiting. It was just such a weird in between time that neither him or I even considered or thought would happen. So that was a unique experience compared to my first.
Yeah, and then we just kept like texting all throughout the day and talking and being like,
yep.
Okay, because we had a little bit of a drive. You were outside of our typical, service area, but Leah and I, because there's two of us, we do offer like, traveling. And so we kept being like, okay, let's just like stay in close touch because I've got a longer drive than I typically would.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's pretty much what it was. Just you and I coming back and forth through the morning, and I was nervous because I didn't want to say to come too early and waste your time, and I didn't want to say to come too late. And I think it just fate had it that it was the Thursday afternoon, so the traffic and such just was not in our favor that day.
Yes. Yeah, I think I hit like 3 car accidents. I didn't hit anyone, just to clarify. I got it stuck in the traffic.
Came up on, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, come on. Yeah, so what was that like knowing that, boom, all of a sudden things picked up and I'm on my way and it's just you two? How was it at your home?
So I'll be honest, I trying to recall the timeline. We had talked and you said, okay, call me at the next shift of, change of contractions. And it just happened so quickly after that. I knew that I had this feeling in my gut when my water broke. I don't know. I had this weird feeling that I waited too long to speak up. And I'm like, I don't.
Your water broke?
No, we had been on the phone like 30 minutes prior.
Okay.
And you said you had said like, call me at the next shift. I'm like, okay, because they still weren't like, they were very, very intense, but they were so sporadic. So, we had decided like, it's just not time yet, because some would be like 20 minutes apart. some would be 7 minutes apart. But we agreed that because I was able to sort of like lay down and they would slow down when I laid down, that we were not in active labor. So like 30 minutes after we hung up that last time is when all of a sudden I was just smacked with these really intense contractions, and that's when my water broke. And that's when I called you. Right as my water broke, and I'm like, there's been a change. My water broke, and you were like, okay, we're on our way right now. We're getting in the car. And I don't know why, I just had this feeling, even though I didn't even know what your ETA was. I just had this feeling. I'm like, you're not going to make it in time. Not that you're not going to make it in time, but the baby's going to come before you're here. Is what I can say. I just had this gut, but I couldn't say that to Jeff because I'm just sending the poor guy into cardiac arrest. Like he's like running around frantic as it was. So I couldn't say out loud like, not going to happen. But that I think was it. Then I think it was then on the phone call that we just decided to stay on the phone together, right? Like we hung up.
I think I had asked like call back if you start feeling any pressure like to push or anything like that.
Yes, I remember now though. You did say that, and I had asked you what was your ETA, and when you told me your ETA, I said, oh snap. And then you called me and you're like, hey, let's just stay on the phone. We'll be here for support. I'm like, sounds great. So yeah, that was just, things just picked up really, really fast from my water breaking. It was just back to back. I couldn't catch my breath. There was no no in between with contractions. Jeff filled the tub, which was a godsend. I was able to get into that and slow things down a tiny bit, but I had got the urge to push, but I did not verbalize that when the urge came, because I guess you guys still weren't here yet.
Yeah, you're in denial. You're like, oh, it's not happening.
I literally was in denial, and I couldn't make eye contact with Jeff because I just knew, but I'm like, I'm just going to try to urge to push and fight this feeling and just look away and just pray that they're going to get here in time. But to be honest, trying to fight the urge to push was more exhausting than pushing.
I would think so.
Yeah. And I kept every time those contractions would come, that urge, I would just like put my hand down there because I'm like, I think he's coming out, and I'm like, I can't look at Jeff right now. And you guys are on the phone. You're like, you're doing great. Keep it up. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we're just
and
like, just listen to your body. And little did we know, you're like, no, I won't listen to my body.
No, I know. I am like, I can't listen to my body. You guys aren't here yet. So yeah, I finally just succumbed to that, and that's when I said, I'm pretty sure this baby's coming. And I remember you're like, yeah, it sounds like it. You're doing great. I'm like,
yeah. I think at one point you had asked like how much longer or how close we were, and I think we were like 10 or 15 minutes away, and that was when you were like, I don't think I can not push anymore. And I think that was when you were like, they're close enough, I'm gonna do this.
Yep, that was exactly it. You guys were like 15 minutes away, and then I was just like, okay, this baby's coming. And you guys are like, okay, just trust your body, like you got it. I'm like, okay, we're going.
And she came.
Yeah, she did. She came, 2 quick pushes, and I don't remember once I started pushing, like actually pushing. I don't remember what you guys said on the phone, but Jeff says that after the first push, when her head came out, you guys were like, you don't have to push again. You can wait for the next contraction, which I had planned to do, and I knew that, but Jeff did not know that, and he thought that she was stuck. And I remember looking up at him, and he's like, she's stuck. You have to get her out. You have to push the baby out. I'm like, okay. So 2 pushes, and she was out.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And then we got there, and yeah, you were just looked like so in bliss in your living room in the birth tub, and
I was in heaven. I mean, the moment she came out was like the most, I cannot describe the feeling. I'll never feel it again. I know that. Just, it was just, I was so empowered. I felt like I was on top of the world. I'm like, nobody can stop me now. And I just fell in love with my cute little baby in the tub.
Amazing. Yeah. What about placenta? Anything you want to share about the birth of the placenta?
Yeah, I think I know I waited until you guys got there, just to make sure. I think I'd pushed once and it didn't come all the way out. It just kind of like halfway came, and then I know you told me that if I pushed again and sort of just kind of tugged on the cord, it would pop out, and sure enough, just a push and a little tug and split out like a little jellyfish. So that was really cool.
Yeah, you gave birth to your baby and placenta all by yourself,
Yeah.
A lot of people think that's why we go to medical school. It's it's like no, you don't need that to catch your baby and have your placenta. You can just do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and my memory is you felt pretty awesome after. I mean, in terms of your blood loss, like you never felt dizzy or anything. You were just like, all right, let's go down the hall to bed. And
Yeah, I remember, I think I was standing and you guys were like, you should probably sit. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll sit down. I felt great.
Yeah.
I didn't have any crazy blood loss, and then I know, no tearing. I was pretty lucky again.
Yeah, like getting you down the hall to bed, I felt like I was almost like, wait up. You were just like,
I'm like, let's go. I remember saying I wanted a shower, and you guys were like, can you just go to bed? Okay. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. I know, because we're like, usually being more upright or, especially with hot water can make people feel lightheaded, but you just felt amazing after. It was so great.
I did. I felt great.
Yeah. How was anything else? Like anything else immediate postpartum you want to mention, or how was your breastfeeding journey? Were you nervous about that?
I mean, immediately postpartum, it was just, I was in heaven.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding, I was not nervous. Just because I knew what I could expect, I guess, going into it. And then obviously with, 2 years of experience under my belt, I felt much more confident in my abilities and my knowledge. So, I mean, we had our own little struggles for a couple of weeks with her latch and whatnot, but we're in a great place now, 10 weeks later. So, hoping to get another 2 years in with our breastfeeding journey.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Maybe any, advice for maybe a first-time mom who's listening to this and trying to decide on, her journey?
Gosh, I think my advice is trust your body. Trust in your ability as a fierce, wonderful woman, that this is a natural thing, and if you want to do it at home, you can do it at home, especially with the support of you and Leah and everyone. Just trust your gut and know that you're made to do it. You're literally designed to do this.
Great. Well, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us at Born Wild Podcast on Instagram. For inquiries or feedback, you can email us at bornwildpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me, Emma Ray, on Instagram at Emma Ray, REA. Sophia at sophiabirth.com.
And me, Leah, at Bay Area Home Birth.
We would really appreciate it if you would rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us reach more people. And as always, stay wild.